So there was a New York Times profile of Donald Trump that came out over the weekend. It included some interesting facts, like he watches TV 4 to 8 hours a day. Now, of course, he denies this and calls it fake news, but there's no fact that's not even slightly against him that he doesn't call fake news, so there's that. But it also included little nuggets here and there about things he's said in meetings at the White House with Democrats. So The Hill wrote this story up. This is based on that New York Times analysis. Trump, Sanders would run for president even if he's in a wheelchair. Report. So he made these comments over the summer, but the news is just coming out now. Trump was visited by 4 Democrats, and he asked them, quote, "Who's going to run against me in 2020? Crooked Hillary? Pocahontas?" And then he brought up Bernie and mimicked an old man in a wheelchair when he brought up Bernie. Dude, you're almost exactly the same age as him. Like, yes, I know, you fucking use tanner on your face and you dye your hair blonde, so perhaps it doesn't look like that, but that's all smoke and mirrors, bitch. That's what that is. And you're also, let's face it, massively overweight, and Bernie's in better shape than you are. I mean, that's true. Again, Trump might look younger, but that's just because of the tanner and the blonde hair. Trump is overweight, man. There's no doubt. And, Corin and I were talking about this on Kyle and Corin. I was telling Corin, like, if Donald Trump were to die tomorrow, some people would be surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised because he's, 71 or 72, but he's overweight, and he doesn't exercise, and he loves fast food. So, I mean, it looks like he got a couple clogged arteries up in that bitch, doesn't he? I think it does. But look, putting that aside, even if Bernie were in a wheelchair, he'd beat you. And I'm serious about that. Like, the idea, and this is what Trump's getting at, because he's such a fucking child, and he's so big on, like, the appearance of things, so he thinks, like, oh, in order for me to be a big, strong leader, I gotta be strapping and tall and puff my chest out, and, like, remember his attack on Jeb Bush? Low energy. That's a child's kind of low energy Bush. Low energy Jeb is who that is. Because in his mind, oh, you're not strong enough. You're not strong enough to be leader. Obviously, history has shown you need somebody who's strong and can appear strong. It's like with dictators around the world, when they want to appear strong, what do? They do goofy photo shoots, Authoritarian leaders love to make themselves, like Vladimir Putin riding a fucking horse shirtless, like, look at me, I'm so wonderful. They do hockey games with Putin where they let him score like 1,000 goals. Like, no, we were playing really hard against him, we promise, all the pro hockey players say. Like, that's the kind of shit Trump is, like, how things look. Like, do I look strong? Do I look strong? Hey, Bernie, if he was in a wheelchair, sad. Yeah, old man in a wheelchair, Bernie. Crazy Bernie Sanders he thinks he's gonna beat me. Even if he's in a wheelchair, he's gonna run against me. But he would win. In Trump's mind, he's like, well, obviously, it's not like history has shown that a president in a wheelchair could be one of the most beloved presidents ever in U.S. history. Oh, shit, that's right. FDR. FDR was in a wheelchair. He won 4 times. He got elected 4 times. He died in office. FDR was so popular, Republicans came up with term limits when FDR died because they said, fuck, we need term limits because if we don't have term limits, we'll never win an election again. We'll never win an election again. He's too good. He does what the people want. He did the New Deal. He's beloved by the country. What are we gonna? We gotta do it. We gotta have term limits or else we'll never win. And Bernie also, by the way, Bernie says he's a democratic socialist, okay? In reality, his policy is more social democratic. He's not post-capitalism. He's for a Scandinavian type system, mixed economy of socialism and capitalism. So he's a social democrat, and, Trump's, oh, he'll run against me if he's in a wheelchair. What was FDR? That's right, a social democrat in a wheelchair. was so popular he couldn't lose. Oh, God. How soon we forget. But you know what's hilarious? I don't doubt for a second that mainstream media, even supposedly liberal outlets, agree with Trump on this. I don't doubt them. I don't doubt that they agree with his initial, reading of it, which is, Bernie's too old, even though Trump's almost the exact same age. By the way, Biden, same thing. Biden's almost the same age as Bernie, too. But they go, Biden and Trump, totally reasonable. Bernie, too old. Look at how they view this thing, man. But I think they would agree with that initial assessment, and I definitely think they would agree with the assessment of, if he's in a wheelchair, fucking never be able to run for president and win. Come on. They wouldn't think about FDR, and they wouldn't apply that example to the modern context and go, yeah, maybe he could win because he's got powerful ideas. Because unfortunately, the reality is, as childish and immature and unsophisticated as our president's ideas are on this issue, I think the mainstream media buys into a lot of that bullshit too. The bullshit of optics, how does it look? And how do I know that they care more about that? Because that's what they talk about all the time. If you watch, mainstream media coverage during an election, almost everything's about optics. They talk about who's raising the most money, and they talk about it in a totally context-free way, so they don't bring up how this is, open, legalized bribery. They talk about it as if it's like, Hillary Clinton has raised $200 million thus far, and Donald Trump has only raised $83 million so far, so she has a big advantage. So everything is so from a childish face value perspective, no context, no explanation. They're big on the optics. Look strong, this leader. And it's just pathetic because the American people are better than that. If you give them the option, and you don't rig the process, by the way, you give them the option of populist left, they're going to vote for it. So, yeah. Bernie would beat Trump, even if he's in a wheelchair. But what's so funny is that the guy who unquestionably has the best chance of beating Trump gets the least credit for that. He's the most popular politician in America. Period. That's not a question. That's what all the polls show. But if you watch mainstream media, you get the sense that it's a toss-up between all these different Democrats. It's a toss-up between the different Democrats. What are you going to do? Maybe Biden, maybe Booker, maybe Bernie. But it's a toss-up between them, and maybe Bernie's too old. But toss-up. No, the polls show Bernie is beloved, the others are not. Let's be accurate about this stuff, but they won't. They'll go more based off their gut feeling, and they'll agree more with Trump's interpretation of this than they will with the people of the United States who've come to a very different conclusion.